I'm Alex, a 26-year-old from Germany. Just 5 months ago, I couldn't string together a single full sentence in English. I was lost. Today I want to tell you how I learned English quickly, without expensive classes or moving abroad. This isn't just my story. It's for anyone who has ever felt frustrated or embarrassed by their English skills. I was exactly where you are, and I promise that if you follow my step-by-step journey, you'll know exactly how to improve your English. My journey didn't start with motivation. It started with a big failure that changed my life. The interview that changed everything. For years, my dream was to be a software engineer at a big international tech company. I loved coding, worked tirelessly, and finally got my chance. A major company in the US invited me for an interview. I was ecstatic, imagining my life in a new country with a big salary. But then the interview happened. I opened Zoom, and there were 3 interviewers. They spoke so fast I couldn't understand anything. When they asked the first question, "Alex, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your experience in software development?" I panicked. The words wouldn't come out. I stumbled through a broken sentence. Yes, I am, software. I do coding. Many projects. Good. I am very good. The silence that followed was a knife in my stomach. I couldn't answer the next questions either. One of them finally smiled and said, "All right, Alex, thank you for your time." I knew what that meant. I had failed. Not because I wasn't good enough at my job, but because I couldn't speak English. That day, I finally understood the power of English. It wasn't just a language, it was the key to my dream, and I didn't have it. I had spent years telling myself, I don't need English, but now I saw the truth. Without it, I was invisible. That night, I made a decision. I would learn English, and I would learn it fast. Most people pay for expensive courses, but I knew they didn't work for me. I had already tried them, and they left me memorizing vocabulary and grammar rules without ever being able to have a real conversation. I needed a system that worked in real life, and that's when I developed my 5-month method. Part 1. The first 15 days. The biggest mistake beginners make is thinking they need more words. I thought the same, but the truth is, I already knew hundreds of words and still couldn't speak. So for the first 15 days, I didn't learn any new words. Instead, I learned how to use the words I already knew. Here's what I did. I created a survival sentence list. I wrote down 50 simple, practical sentences I would need every day, like, "Can you repeat that?" and "I don't understand." Every morning, I read these 50 sentences aloud 10 times. My tongue felt slow at first, but after a few days, these sentences became automatic. I started speaking to myself. I spoke English whenever I was alone, in the shower, while making breakfast, and on walks. I'd narrate my actions. I'm making eggs. They are easy to cook. I felt silly at first, but this became my private classroom. In just 1 week, my brain started thinking in English. I copied sentences from native speakers. I chose 5 sentences a day from movies or real conversations, and repeated them 10 times, mimicking the exact emotion, speed, and pronunciation. This helped me fix my accent and sound more natural. By the end of the first 15 days, something had shifted. I stopped translating in my head and could say basic sentences without thinking. This was just the beginning. Part 2, the real practice begins. After 15 days, I was ready for the next step. I could say basic sentences, but I wanted to have real conversations and understand native speakers fluently. My brain was still slow at putting words together, so I needed a way to make speaking feel natural. I started using a method I call the question-answer method. Here's how it works. 1. I asked myself a simple question in English. 2. I answered it immediately, without thinking too much. 3. I repeated the process, adding more details to my answer each time. For example, I'd ask, "What did you do today?" and start with a short answer like, "I worked." Then I'd build on it. I worked on my project for 3 hours. After that, I took a break and had some coffee. This trained my brain to think and speak without hesitation. I did this every day for at least 30 minutes, and my speaking speed and sentence length improved dramatically. My pronunciation was still a problem, I sounded like a foreigner, so I started using the echo technique. 1. I listened to a native speaker in a movie or podcast. 2. I paused the audio after a sentence. 3. I repeated the sentence exactly the same way, matching the speed, tone, and emotion. For example, a character would say, "I don't know what you're talking about." I would pause and repeat it, over and over. I did this for 30 minutes a day, and within a month, my pronunciation became much more natural. I also needed to build my vocabulary. Instead of memorizing lists, I used the story method. I'd take 5 new words each day, create a short story using them, read the story out loud 10 times, and then try to use the words in my real conversations. This made words stick. To stop translating in my head, I started describing everything around me in English. I'd walk outside and think, "The sky is blue, the weather is hot, that man is wearing a red shirt." I also started writing a daily journal in English. These habits trained my brain to think in English naturally. One simple but powerful rule I followed was to speak English for at least 2 hours every day. If I had no one to talk to, I talked to myself. I spoke while cooking, cleaning, and walking. I reminded myself, English is my future. I cannot quit. Part 3. My final breakthrough. After a few months of consistent practice, I had a solid foundation. My next step was to push myself further and tackle grammar and real-life usage. I didn't use grammar books. Instead, I learned through observation. I started observing how native speakers structured their sentences. For example, I noticed they often said, "I have been learning English for 5 months," not, "I am learning English for 5 months." This small detail was a huge realization. The English we learn in school is often different from the English people actually speak. I researched these differences and practiced using them. I also kept a small notebook for confusing prepositions. Why on the bus, but in the car? I'd write down examples and listen to how native speakers use them to build my intuition. I also started a daily diary in English, trying to copy the sentence structures I saw in books and articles to make my writing sound more natural. One of the most powerful techniques I used was shadowing. I found videos of native speakers and repeated their words immediately after them, matching their speed and rhythm. I did this for 20 minutes a day, and my fluency and pronunciation improved dramatically. I also watched movies with subtitles, pausing after each sentence to repeat it, focusing on tone and rhythm. At this stage, I realized that English is also about confidence. I made a decision not to be afraid of making mistakes. I started speaking to people at work and in stores. I was surprised to find that people understood me even with small mistakes, and didn't laugh. This gave me the confidence to keep going. To overcome my fear of talking to native speakers, I prepared by practicing common conversation topics. I joined an online group where people from different countries practiced English together. I was nervous at first, but I quickly realized everyone was there to learn, just like me. This not only improved my English, but also made learning fun. 5 months after I started, I felt a new confidence. I wasn't the same person who had been rejected. I applied for my dream job again. This time, I walked into the interview room with confidence, speaking clearly and answering every question with ease. I wasn't just speaking English, I was owning it. They were impressed not only with my skills, but with my persistence. A few days later, I got the call. "Alex, congratulations, you got the job." My starting salary was €5,000 a month. I stood there, shaking, with tears in my eyes. The first thing I did was call my parents. I was doing this for them too. With my first salary, I bought my father a beautiful watch, and my mother a gold necklace, gifts to thank them for believing in me. In that moment, I knew every struggle, every late night, and every moment of frustration was all worth it. Key lessons from my journey. If you want to become fluent in English, here are the most important things I learned. Mindset is everything. Stop telling yourself you're bad at English. Believe you can learn it, and you'll find a way. Surround yourself with English. Change your phone's language. Watch English content. Listen to English music. And follow English-speaking influencers. Make English a part of your daily life. Speak without fear. Mistakes are part of learning. Native speakers appreciate your effort. Force yourself to speak, even if it's just to yourself. Practice active listening and shadowing. Don't just listen passively. Repeat sentences you hear, mimicking the pronunciation and rhythm. Expand your vocabulary smartly. Stop memorizing word lists. Learn words in context by focusing on phrases and creating short stories with new words. Learn grammar by using it. You don't need to study grammar books. Learn by speaking and listening, and correct your mistakes as you go. Consistency over perfection. The key is to practice every day, even if it's just for 10 minutes. The pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts forever. You don't need expensive classes or a perfect environment. All you need is a strong desire and a commitment to practice every day. Imagine yourself 6 months from now, speaking English fluently and confidently. Your future self will thank you. Your journey to fluency starts now.